Okay. So we're back. We had a little technical gremlin, but we are back nonetheless. So thank you for your patience, Audrey.
Not at all.
What were we saying? Where were we?
We were talking about nerves and pitching to a lot of people. And I was talking about my background as an educator and as a former head of school, where I was often delivering assemblies and having to speak to lots of either people in local authorities, so tribunals, annual reviews, lots of opportunities for me to speak to groups of people. So happily used to do that without a flash, but give me 3 or 4 people in a room and then the nerves would just start to come flowing. Or an interview situation, which leads me nicely onto probably one of my worst pitches that I ever did. Okay, so one of my worst pitches was funny, not that long after I left education. I decided that I made a decision to go for an interview, and they asked me basically to talk about myself. And the idea was I was meant to be getting this job, but do you know what I did? I managed to pitch where I was basically loving the life that I was living that wasn't the job. So basically I bigged up my life. So I did this amazing pitch about, and I'm freelance and I'm this and I'm that and I'm this and I'm that. And then I finished it. I left the interview, walked out of there and thought, I don't think I'm going to get that job, because I think I did exactly the opposite. And I did it again in another interview, which actually it gave me the message, that subconscious feeling of, actually, do you know what? You're not meant to get these jobs. You're not meant to do it. So that was, in a way, I read between the lines. I took the message. Don't need the job. Work for yourself.
And the outcome was they didn't choose you?
They didn't choose me. No, they didn't. No.
But then through the process of going to the interview, answering the questions, and almost pitching to yourself. Yes. Externalizing your ideas.
100%.
You were then like, actually, I'm really happy.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And the thing is, there was a good gap between both events, but the same things happened. And it just made me realize, what are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing? And at that point I thought, that's fine. And yet I thought extrinsically, I thought, I want this job. This is great. And then actually I went in there and did the exact opposite. And that's where your subconscious kind of kicks in and takes over. And so that's that digging deep bit, which I always think is, that's the beauty of pitching, I think, as well. It's just one of those amazing things. Actually, there's stuff that that you think you don't know, but actually you know it. Yeah. So, and you talk about it a lot when you ask people if they, when they're talking, to actually just talk from the heart, just because actually that's the truth of it. If you're sitting there with your bit of paper, then actually, no, who's listening?
That's so interesting you share that experience, because the reason that I go to PitchClub, the reason I went to PitchClub so much at the beginning in Beijing when it was live in person, was because of the feedback, as we were sort of talking about in part 1 of our live. And then and what I love about what you just shared is the fact that you should never say no to an opportunity to perform. Yes. Because going to an interview, I tell people to go to interviews they don't want, because it gives you practice at turning up on time, practice at dressing appropriately, practice at answering questions, practice at hearing yourself speak your ideas. Yes. And if you only wait for the one job that you really want, and that is your first interview in 6 months or a year or 10 years, then you're going to be really rusty.
Yes.
And it is such a performance aspect that, again, because I was almost expecting the punchline of your interview story to be, and they gave me the job. Because you're sort of like, and then like, this is a great personality, because you have no connection to the outcome. Yeah. And my big moment with pitching and presenting was when I did a TEDx Beijing talk in 2010.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And it was the first time I'd ever spoken to 100 people, and I had an 18-minute pitch window. And I so overcomplicated my presentation ridiculously. Like, I spent 3 weeks designing slides because I'm a graphic designer. That was my comfort zone. And I wrote a really complex script that was sort of like, you had to get it word for word for it to make sense. And then I was doing it for the first time in front of 100 people at the beginning of this TEDx event. And I was so nervous. I was pacing in circles.
Oh,
I looked like a ceiling top.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah. There was a little voice in my head said, "Go, run away." Like I could see the exit sign, and like, you know, when your leg twitches when you sort of think you're going to do something. I felt that. And then luckily I calmed myself, centered myself, and then in my mind I ripped up the script that I'd written and I said, forget that. Tell the stories that you know. And so I just started to freestyle. And I kind of bumpy landing on my final key takeaway. But that moment was pivotal because I made the stakes so high in my own mind.
Yes.
That I had anxiety instead of anticipation. And now I flip that. So I love pitching and I give myself different runways. But from that sort of near disaster experience to now, there's this huge sort of like
learning. Yeah.
Because I've never said no to the stage. And that is so crucial in my mind.
I think that's a brilliant story, Martin. I love that. I love the idea about the script thing. And I think I've learned probably in the last year, my learning journey, my arc has been about it's got to be, and maybe there's the education thing going on here where I'm thinking, I've written it down. You'll laugh. I mean, I've actually here, these are my notes because that's me. I will prepare so I don't go in, and it's not even so much that I need to read anything word for word. It's just so that I know where I'm going. But actually, I'm not really looking at this. I'm just talking to you. And I recognize that is the skill of pitching. And that's what PitchClub has taught me, that actually the conversation that I'm having, and effectively I am having it with you, because I can hear your voice, but I'm not overly looking at you. I'm looking at the dot. I'm looking at my camera because actually I'm talking to you, Martin, and the people that are watching this either now live or later on. And I'm talking to you about the fact that this was where I was. I used to read everything and thinking that reading was the right thing, when actually you just want to know what I think. You just want to know the expertise that I have, and you want to hear it from me in my words, my way. And so that's now what I bring, and I do that, and it's so freeing. So I really understand that whole runaway thing, because I've done that I don't need to do this. I can go, but actually that's the beauty, and that's what gets me back to PitchClub every week, because I realize it's my space where I can come in and think, right, I'm going to give this a go.
Exactly. And I mean, I love seeing your notes there, because preparation is key. And anybody who looks effortless on stage isn't telling you about the hours of prep that they've done.
Right.
But it's that transition from releasing the preparation tool and not using it as a crutch, but using it as a spring.
Absolutely. Definitely.
So if you didn't have your notes, if you hadn't done that in your preparation phase, you'd feel a bit like something's missing.
That's right.
Because I haven't gone through my rituals.
Yes. And it's interesting you say that, because I used to not do this enough. So I used to just come straight on and thinking I'll be okay. And I was okay, but I could have been better. So now I know this makes me better. So I do it and then I leave it.
Wow.
So I do it, and then and I'm learning now. I've learned to do that. That process has helped me in pitching, because now I'll prepare it and then I just think, right, now let me share it. Let's get it out there. But I'll share it Audrey's way, not the written follow the script, and if you don't hit a particular milestone, then actually the slide doesn't make any sense, and then you're like, oh my god, I forgot to say that, I could have said that, and then as you say, you go around in circles. Too many times I've done that. Too many times.
Absolutely. I mean, my version of that is my slides. So with my graphic design and my dyslexia, like I'm much more comfortable visually sketching photos, post-it notes, and so I will gather my thoughts by, and I used to VJ in Beijing, so I was playing the visuals in clubs.
Oh wow, cool.
I used to stand next to the DJ, and I used to.
Is that hard to do?
It was quite a lot of work. It was really good fun, like throwing up visuals and mixing, and And a lot of my friends were DJs, and we used to see the DJs that came into Beijing, and I'd watch them in their record box, and then I'd go to my friend's house the afternoon of a gig and watch him prepare. And so I brought that little habit into slide design and presentation. So I will go into my slides and I reshuffle every presentation before I give it. Might be 1 or 2 slides, it might be quite a drastic reshuffle, but it's just helps me sort of kind of like get my story going.
Yeah.
And every image that I share is a trigger for a story. And I can either do that, the short, medium, or long version. And then just by shuffling and condensing the slides, I get my equivalent of your notes that you have in front of you.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, I like that shuffling thing. Yeah, that's a bit edgy. A little bit. Bit white knuckle ride for me, but hey, I might give it a go.
Yeah, you need to not do it you need to give yourself ample margin, which is the same with any process. If you try and do a process too fast, you're just going to crash into the edges.
Yes.
But it also gets you really fluid with your software. So whether you're using Canva, Prezi, PPT, Keynote, whatever it might be, Slides, Google Slides, you just get really good at knowing your tools. So you're like a craftsman that goes into his workshop and picks everything up instead of kind of going, oh, I really want to do this, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Improvement.
Mix it up. For real.
Excellent. So we're going to wrap it up fairly soon because we don't want to, we've got busy lives. So if we talk a little bit about PitchClub. So, I mean, we've sprinkled in our conversation. So what would you say if somebody's listening or watching this and they've sort of heard about PitchClub, or they've never heard about it before, and they're kind of like, oh, I've got to go for an hour. What am I going to get out of it? How's it going to sort of impact me? What would you share as sort of experiences and observations?
Okay, so the first thing I would do, I would say, well, number one, turn up. Yeah, turn up. And doing anything, making that first step is always going to be the hardest step, but do it and know why you're doing it. So the why for me is simply that it's an opportunity to practice. Practice as a musician often used to be underrated. It took me a while when I was learning my instrument. I used to blag it for a bit because I was good at it. And at some point when I started to get serious about my instrument, I had to really actually understand the value of practice. So I think this is another thing. It's that practice. It's what we say on LinkedIn, isn't it? About the consistency, about being there all the time. So I think that's the reason why you would turn up. Come, practice, embrace the community, because the community are there for you. Everyone's there and everyone's kind of gunning for you in a positive way, and that's unusual in today's world where it's so adversarial and people are thinking, oh, you're not good, or you're good, or they're not saying any of that. So you've got that community spirit, you've got the opportunity to practice, you've got the opportunity to get that feedback, and then you're trying out some concepts, and people are going to give you stuff that actually you can use that is really valuable. And also you're getting that wonderful diverse kind of community as well. So listening to people from different parts of the world where they're going to value either your humor and say that's really good, or they might say less of your humor and maybe focus on the facts. It's just great. It's just great because that's what you want, really. You want to make sure that you are, you're touching as many bases as you can. So I just think it's a great thing to do. And the thing is, you kind of get hooked on it. And I can vouch for the fact that I was on holiday this summer and I made sure I tuned in. I remember doing that. Going, oh, my husband was going, where are you going? Oh, it's PitchClub, and I brought my laptop deliberately to make sure that I didn't miss it. So so that's what we're talking about. It still is important to me. And even when I can't make it, I make sure that where I can make it, I make a beeline to make sure I'm there. So yeah, just come. We will welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, no, I mean that's it, isn't it? It's like I've always. And like I was sort of saying earlier on in our conversation, I used to get quite nervous. And even though I've got like quite an extensive presentation, I used to feel it. And I think the one thing I felt, why did I get nervous, was like, because I had to sort of fill the expectations other people created. Like Martin's the pitch coach and he's got, he's going to pitch really well. And I was like, well, I don't always pitch really well. So like, and that sort of apprehension builds. And then I think what you said, like, I just made some quick notes, although my green screen is not going to see, but advice you can use.
Yes.
So I've always walked away with like, oh yes, that was somebody who sort of sat in the corner of the room, just watched, just gave me some advice that I was like, wow, I've
come
thought
on.
about that 100 times since I got that piece of advice.
Yeah.
And no matter your level, there is so much scope to improve.
Every time. And I think that's the thing. It knocks away if you think you're good, you probably are, but you could be better. And somebody else will just give you that slight edge. And I think that's the thing. The first time I did my first pitch, I remember thinking, oh yeah, okay, yeah, good. So now I actually welcome that, if anything, and the advice is actually, it carries through in everything that you do. And as a entrepreneur, you know, I've got my own business out. I have to pitch a lot now, and I've learned about. In fact, some of the feedback you gave me about making sure you're hitting what it is that you're trying to talk about within probably the first 10 to 15 seconds, capture the audience and then keep them with you, but don't let them kind of hang on, or don't let them kind of disappear off because you haven't said what it is that you're doing. And I think one of my pictures, I used fruit, and I think most people loved the fact that I was actually holding real fruit, because they were thinking, what are you going to do with it? And then that kind of kept people in. So it's things like that I've now learned. Yeah, that's the way in. So it's great. It's really good.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, no, when you demonstrated and you held up a piece of fruit and that was part of your story, that I remember that pitch vividly because there was that very performance, delightful surprise. Like, what?
Yeah.
And did you see Simona's when she did that? Were you there?
Yes, I did. Oh, that was another one. Yeah. That was a great one. Yeah.
So for anyone who didn't see it or listening, so one of our community members was talking, and she was telling this fantastic story, and she was just using her hands. And she said, this character spoke to this character, but this character is very different to that character. And she sort of
did that.
Created this amazing narrative performance about difference, but the simplicity was just in the position of the hands and the movement. And brought it together with this clap that was a sensory motion. I was like, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I'm stealing that. I'm gonna, like, that is going in. Sometimes and you're like, okay, that's getting hard drive backed up.
Yeah. Use that one. Yeah.
In the right context, that is so powerful. So, and it came out of nowhere. It just came out of PitchClub. That's it. And what I say to people is, PitchClub is stakes with no risk.
Yes.
So nothing's going to go wrong, but you want to perform to your audience, and it pushes you to come up with great stuff.
Yes, without doubt. And it's the support bit I think I love the best, because I think you come away with that thinking, okay, right, it's not like you're not going to get a job, or you're not going to get the money, or whatever it is, but actually what you're coming away with is the gold. It's the part of an interview that often when you have an interview, they just tell you didn't get the job, and then you just go away with your tail between your legs. But actually, sometimes you're also not in a position to necessarily hear feedback about different aspects of an interview as well. When you're pitching, you want to hear it, and they'll say, oh, do you want some feedback? And you give it, but you're not really listening. You're hearing blah, 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 didn't get the job. That's all you're hearing. Didn't get the job, not good enough, didn't get the job. Whereas here, PitchClub, it's just about, tell me what I actually said. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. And you can hear it because nothing happens at the end. We're all still friends at the end. We don't lose money. So
that is amazing. Yeah. It's a bit like that teacher in Charlie Brown, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's right. Yes. For real. So it's great. Yeah, there is no reason why you should be PitchClub. Somebody asked me about it actually a little while ago, and I actually said to them I would talk to them about it. But do you know what I'm going to do? I'm hoping she's watching, or she will watch. In fact, I'm going to direct her to make sure she watches this. And this is it. We've just talked through what PitchClub is. Come on.
Exactly, guys, come and join us. Are you going to be there later in 50 minutes?
I will be, definitely.
Excellent. Well, Audrey, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for surfing the little technical issue. We will figure out in the replay and the feed what happens.
It's all right. It's all good.
I've got some gems of little nuggets of advice of what you just said. So I'm going to photograph these and stick them up in the chat. So absolute pleasure getting to know you more and hearing more of your background and your stories that we don't get time for in Pitch Club. And
thank you. Thanks, Martin. It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you, Audrey. Speak soon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye. Oh, and anyone who's listening, come and join us at Pitch Club at 5:30 p.m. GMT. I'll put the link below this chat.